Okay, we're live. This is new. So, we're going to give it a few minutes because this is like a live surprise. No one was expecting it, not even us. But here we are.
That's how it happens. Yeah. Oh, and I think, because we have it to the side, so it's a little harder to see. Hi, Lee.
Hey.
I'm really tilting.
Cool.
How's it going? I know, it's sideways, but
We'll figure it out.
yeah.
We'll just be doing that.
Rookies.
That's okay.
Lives have only been available for I don't know how many years, and we're like, oh my god, live.
They just figured it out like 80 seconds ago.
Definitely. Yeah, hello.
Guys,
Hi.
welcome.
Goddess of... Is that
Rhode
Goddess?
Island?
Oh, Rhode Island? I thought it was Rob. I was like, I like that. Yeah. We're excited to tune in. We have pretty cool concepts that have been flowing through our field, that we want to share in terms of this time that we're in terms of the light and the darkness, this ascension process.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, we're just gonna dig into all of it, and so if you guys have questions or anything comes up, feel free. We'll do our best to read them and get to them in time.
Yes, I'll be tilting. Thank you for the dope necklace. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. Hey. Exactly.
Doing all that.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, we're gonna be just diving a little bit into the concept of ascension, and we throw that word out and we hear it a lot, and we just want to go a little bit deeper, go into organic darkness, inorganic darkness. We've been talking a lot about how do we identify, how do we discern when that energy is around, how do we protect when that energy is around, how does it show up in the micro level and the macro level, and how to keep shining.
That's great. Shine through it all.
Yes. Ascension. I love that. Absolutely.
Ooh.
Yes. Because as much as we are talking about ascending, it is an inward journey. So definitely learn that.
Learning, experiencing.
Yeah.
Yes. Very cool. All right. So in terms of ascension in general, I remember the first time I heard that word and I was like, whoa, like mind blown. And then I couldn't find enough information on it. Like I was Googling, nothing was really explaining exactly what I was experiencing. And it actually sounded a little frightening. Like people were like, you might have these weird symptoms, you might lose your friends and family, like your life might change entirely. And I was like, whoa, like, do I really want this? Yet ascension is a really beautiful process, and as individualized as it can feel at times, it is something we're experiencing as a collective and that our planet is experiencing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so when we talk about ascension, we're essentially becoming lighter, literally lighter. So our carbon-based DNA is changing into more of a crystalline-based DNA. Literally, there's more light being held within our molecular structure, let's say. And so with that, we can also draw in darkness, but it also requires us to shed quite a bit. And that's why maybe, some of the symptoms are like very physical, because our body is also adjusting to this new way of being, right? And so think of like when we are like training or learning something physically new. It's like our muscles when we're working out, or when we go on a hike, then we haven't walked in a long time. The muscles are like, ooh, this is new. How do I adjust here? And so it's the same thing happening with our body adjusting to the ascension. It's literally coming into new suits, let's say. And so that can be uncomfortable. We can sense it in our sleep, where it may be restless, or we may feel like we need extra sleep. Sometimes sweat or like sweating at night can be one of the symptoms that we physically feel. And then when it shows up when we're talking about the shedding, it could also be like different patterns of belief, right? Different emotions, different ways of responding to situations that are happening in our lives, and also seeing clearly, right? There's this level of getting through the veil of illusion. One of the biggest illusions being the illusion of separation from source. So we'll maybe talk a little bit about that, and how that has played a big role in the darkness that's been created. And so again, with this ascension, it could show up physically, it could show up mentally, emotionally, and we know that it's a spiritual journey. There's no way that it's not connected spiritually. So it's a multi-layered ascension process, and like Harsha said, is ascension, because we are going within. It is requiring us to maybe look at things that we haven't wanted to look at, change the way we're doing things, and so literally bringing light into the darkness. And to be in the dark is literally to go into what's hidden. And so that's what we're doing in this process. And Gaia is also doing it. Our planet is doing it. So she's also revealing at the macro level, what no longer serves, and we're almost like where we're going.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Touching back on a bit of ascension too, our frequency is increasing. And so as our frequency increases, things of a lower frequency no longer serve, no longer resonate. And that's how it can show up in our day in, day out lives. That's how it can show up even in our interpersonal experiences with one another. We can sense when something's a lower vibrational, a lower frequency experience, and it's no longer resonating. And so we're finding ourselves with new approaches and doing things differently. The planet is going through the same thing. As Gaia's frequency increases as well, she's going through her own process of ascension, and she's revealing to us, okay, she's got to shake things off and shift a little bit too. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so one of the topics that have really been coming up is this topic of darkness. Not to be confused with, inorganic darkness could definitely show up as evil, but organic darkness being our own darkness, right? When we talk about shadow work and looking at the pieces that we don't want to look at, and when we look at the yin and the yang, right? That dark energy, sometimes also represented by the feminine energy, is needed, right? So that is part of our divine design, our original blueprint, to work with that, because we live in a universe that has the universal law of polarity. So we need that. We need to see both ends so that we can create. Just like we are in a universe that has a universal law of polarity, there's also the universal law of cause and effect, right? Which we can call karma, or have called karma. And that law is meant for us to learn from, right? So that we can take our actions and evolve. What's happened is essentially we've been kind of like hijacked. So our divine design was hijacked. And without getting like too woo-woo, we know that this planet is quite neutral. It's young. And it is like a school. We could definitely learn a lot here at the soul level. And it is open to multiple races of beings. That was part of the design, so that we could harmoniously live together. And there have been races of beings that have affected our divine blueprint. And we're in this time, when we talk about ascension, we are at an axis point of our organic timeline. And so that dark energy in this time specifically is going to attempt really, really hard to distract us. And we can see it in the macro, like we see the systems, we see the language that's being used, we see the tactics of divisiveness, lies, fraud, like you could just hear it, crisis, right, virus, like literally. When we talk about inorganic darkness, it is like having a virus, right, in our mental, in our emotional bodies, and then, essentially it's the physical. And so sometimes it's a process of identifying, being aware and discerning when that energy is around. Other times it's about protecting and shielding against that energy, or setting boundaries, asking for it to no longer be present. And the reason we're talking about this is because we are essentially activating so much light. It like draws in that darkness in a magnified way. So it's really, really important to hone in, to be centered, to be present, to disentangle from anything that's trying to, and I say trying here deliberately, to take from your energy, to drain, to distract, to distort, to divide. And you're going to be able to hone in on what that feels like for you, right? Sometimes it's physically draining. Other times it's like you were mentioning, like having a headache, right? Like the body will show when we're in settings or in spaces where the energy is not serving.
Right.
Or it's only serving self.
Absolutely. Yeah, you feel it. It does feel very much like an energetic drain. And so it's an essential time to get very strong and centered within yourself. And I kind of feel like that's wonderful. That's wonderful advice for anyone to share with one another. Like, there's no one profiting off of that concept to get strong within yourself in just saying those words. So that's coming from a heart space where we're saying, okay, how do we disentangle? Let's start there. We deleted some apps that were no longer serving, that were distracting, that we were just checking in on. I know I was just checking in on to like kill time, whatever, and start thinking about like, all right, well, how did I spend my day? What was actually of value to me during the day? What was a meaningful experience? What was a soul growth experience? What was a way that I could further do my inner work? And anything distracting me from that is not really serving of the highest and best good. I'm not saying to not have any fun, just saying to be aware, because we've easily been provided multiple ways to be distracted throughout our day, even if we're at work, no matter what we're doing. These programs were designed to do exactly that.
Yeah. Something that really comes to mind for me, and this is something that we've talked about quite a bit in terms of like a differentiator between light and dark energy. And one piece is that the light, creator source, can always create anew. There's always an infinite amount of possibilities. So there's never a cap. There's never a limitation, especially when it's to serve the highest good. And so where the dark has to imitate, right? It because it feeds off the light, right? That's literally whether it's micro or macro. And so if the dark is feeding off the light, it can only go to where it's gone, or the light has gone, right? And so because there's an infinite amount of possibilities with the light, the dark it's almost like it can never really be a step ahead. It's always almost like a step behind, or it's imitating, right? We say this in that phrase, wolf in sheep's clothing, right? That's like a common, when someone's deceiving, they show up in this sheep clothing, but inside they're really a wolf, right? And so kind of reminds me of Malcolm X. He talked about not the sheep, but anyway, he talked about like you'd rather know off the bat like who you're working with, and it's unfortunately it's almost like that, like you want to get to know your enemy, right? So in order to be able to identify the dark, it's almost like you got to know how it works, right? And so we can do that in a way where we're observing it, right, without getting entangled in it, or without like reacting to when we see it happen, or when we see it in our field. And because Gaia is also ascending, she's going to be revealing, we're going to be revealing, and that's also revealing our truest self. So because we're shedding all these layers and becoming brighter and brighter and brighter, all our darker energies are also going to come to the light more. So we'll be able to identify the external darkness, because it'll feel fake. It's like you can see through. Like sometimes
it's phony.
Yeah, like all I have to do is I don't even like have to listen to a video. I could just like see it in the person's energy. I'm like, nope, not true. Or yes, this person, like their energy is like, yes, on point. And so we're gonna get better and better at that, because our third eyes are gonna be a bit more active. Our ability to discern and be aware of that energy is going to enhance and amplify, because we're also revealing more of who we are in our essence. And we are unconditional love. We are light. We are meant to be in unity consciousness, and not necessarily unity consciousness like everything is rainbows and unicorns. Unity consciousness where we acknowledge and we're aware and we realize that I am the universe in this physical vessel. you are the universe in that physical vessel, and we're in this same consciousness field, right? And we work together. So what I do, what I say, what I think affects the entire field. There's no way that it doesn't, because we are entangled from the original spark, right? And so because we're entangled in that way, we know that we get to go back to that. So one of the biggest illusions that the darkness or the inorganic darkness plays is that we are separate from source, right? And so going back to that karmic loop, we have forgotten that we are connected to source, and that we're divine beings and we're sovereign beings. We're here to reclaim our divine sovereignty and to co-create what's in the highest good for the collective, so that we can go back to this original divine blueprint that we're here to embody, and no longer be involved in these inorganic programs that have been really within our realm for thousands and thousands of years. Okay, so that's where we're at. We're, no biggie.
Yeah.
But you chose to be here at this time too. We chose to be here at this time.
18.
Yeah, 18. Yeah, it's time to embody that wisdom from all those lifetimes. That knowingness that you are here as a starseed, a light being, a light worker, a light warrior, however you want to identify. You are part of the A-team. You are a superhero for being on this planet in this time. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And the big thing here is now you know. So once you know that this is what's happening, that this is how it all went down, what do we do with it? We know that if everything that we feel and everything that we project onto others is experienced, then it's essential that we keep our own energetic field clear, that we vibrate very high, that we hold a high frequency, that we continue to show up in a way that serves everyone. Yeah, so that's why we started to really hone in on the concepts of shielding and the concepts of using decrees where we're revoking lower thought forms and lower frequencies and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that because we've been really putting these into practice now. Because we're responsible for it. Now we know.
Yeah, I would say too, before we get into some of the techniques we use, this is like a personal responsibility, right? So this ascension process, when we know that we're a part of it, it's like there's this option of going with a timeline of that inorganic darkness where it's like, I'm gonna just turn my cheek and be like, nothing's happening here.
Nothing's weird here.
No, everything's totally normal. All our systems are dismantling, but we're okay. Just because I could still be on a platform. We really get to shed. And I think with Saturn and Jupiter being in Aquarius, that's a different thing. I do feel like we're going to be connecting collectively for different causes at a macro level, but that's my own personal 2 cents on that configuration, let's say. So we are personally responsible, and sometimes what we notice in this field is that we become aware of these things, and then there's no action. Right? And so it's so important to have the awareness and then act on it, because it is our personal responsibility to be in alignment with our own essence. No one is going to do it for us. No one can. That's that perception that everything is outside of ourselves, right? And sure, sometimes we need that. We need external, whether it's validation or confirmation or help. Yet the personal responsibility is that ascension journey is going inside and saying, okay, where do I get to shed? Where do I get to shine my light? Where do I get to be truthful and authentic without imitating the other light that I see, right? Because we also have that tendency, because it's easy, right? Especially in the world that we live in. Because we can just screenshot and share type of thing, right? We live in this setting of we can just almost take. And so anyway, it's our responsibility to stay true to who we are, no matter what unfolds within this. So and that requires that practice, and it requires discernment, because the inorganic darkness has been on this planet for that long because it's that good at developing programs. Mm-hmm. Yes, it works very much in the intellectual mental body. So becoming aware of that in that field, and then working with the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, could really be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so no one can disentangle for you. So how do we disentangle ourselves? That means like pulling away from energies and distractions that are no longer serving so that we can really get within and figure out what feels right for us, what feels true for us, so that we're looking with a fresh lens, some true clarity as we move ahead. That's truly what's needed for us to see past some of this inorganic darkness. It's almost like created a haze, like a fog for us that to work through. And we're very much able to do so, but we get to acknowledge that it's there and then figure out how to move through it.
Yeah, Carla says, energy, alchemy. It's been rough to do, but we're being pushed to face our darkest emotions. Absolutely.
That's that organic darkness is our deepest emotions. Like it's all coming up to the surface. That's part of our shadow work. And it is like, sometimes people will see us and be like, oh, you guys are all like happy all the time. You must not do any shadow work. No, like we just are not incredibly vocal about every experience that we're having, as not everyone deserves access to what we're going through. In a sense, we would be sharing some great discomfort that could be like an emotional dumping, which isn't really helpful for anyone. So yeah, working through those deep emotions and recognizing how they serve. What are we learning through them? How are we coming back and cycling back? It's like a spiral. It's on my hands doing this. Because the lessons are always a spiral. We're just learning it on a deeper way. We're seeing it in another way. We're having conversations with others where we're presented with almost emotions that may in the past have been triggering for us, so that we can see what is our new reaction to this, when we can come from a calmer, centered space and acknowledge it.
Yeah, I'm just going to read really quick. We are in the void of infinite potentiality, so the energy almost feels like wild waves of upheaval. Yes, waves. That's how I've been describing it. I'm like, it's just waves.
Feeling it, surfing them, learning how to surf real quick. Because there's no other option. Like, I don't know if anybody else is having dreams about waves, but like that has been a thing. And what do? I always have this dream where there's a giant like typhoon that's like right behind me, and I just know I gotta just take a breath, because can't outrun it. What am I gonna do? Take a nice deep breath and prepare to float on up to the top.
Actually, speaking of dreams, that may be another way that sometimes the inorganic darkness can show up in dream time. That's why one of the techniques we're going to share is like what to say or do before bedtime. But also our own darkness can show up. Briefly, I had a dream the other day where there was another gentleman in the dream, and there was like a lake that was iced. And in the dream, I thought, this must be freezing. I'm gonna take my time. I walked over very gently, and then this gentleman comes over and he just runs in and like cracks open the ice and falls right through, like he just dove in. And then out of nowhere, there's another gentleman that says, ooh, that's really hot. Like he's gonna come up quick. And it was weird because in the dream, it looked like it was freezing, right? It's iced. But it was like a hot spring, and it was like literally like hot water. And so then this guy comes right back up. And then like I was reflecting on it, because I did end up going into the water and like submerged in it. And, that has its own meaning. Yet I was thinking about how sometimes what is required when we're in these moments of like unknown is to really like be cautious, right? And not necessarily jump in just because it looks like I can just jump in and do my thing, because I don't know what's there, right? So I want to take my time, and perhaps there's someone along the way that's been there already and is like, hey, you might want to think about that before you jump into burning hot water. So it felt relevant to how we approach the unknown and the darkness. That doesn't necessarily mean we're not jumping in or learning or integrating. It's just like we don't necessarily want to jump into things we're not familiar with. That's very common too with this realm, where it could be like confused with like access to other worlds and spirits, and it can get messy. And we always like share with others, like, you don't want to just go in because you're curious. Like, it doesn't work that way. You really want to be intentional and cautious and have a purpose. It's not just because I have this gift and I can tune in. It really is like, what's your intention here, and is it serving others, right? Or are you just serving self?
Because it can feel very powerful when we're in those states. So we want to ensure that the intention behind it is for the highest and best good of all involved. I really love that we're touching on that a little bit, because that's definitely something that happens in energy work and channeling. So how can we ensure that we are serving the highest and best good when we're accessing this type of energy? So,
Yeah.
A lot of it's with decrees, because your words are powerful.
Yeah.
Especially when they're coming from this heart-based intention, like this heart chakra, that is the key. So always, yes. So do we want to touch a little bit on that dream time and how we would like to? Yeah. So talking about some of that inorganic darkness and how it has access to us when we're in a delta state, in that dream state, that's when we're programmable. And so I think some people have been saying their dreams have been really like off kilter or odd, and I feel like I'm hearing that from other light workers, people who consider themselves star seeds, that sort of thing. And so we were recently like learning about this, and someone had mentioned how important it is to shield up before bedtime, before dream time, so that in our dreams we're protected from inorganic darkness's programming, right? So we get it during the day through TV, through screens, through other people who are just kind of spitting out the same programming as well.
That are unconscious of it.
Clearly, some people are totally unaware that that's what they're doing, yet you feel it within you, and you're like, okay, this is like the same old story, and it doesn't feel true, and it doesn't feel like it's serving, and it also is trying to keep me in a state of fear, and trying to divide us, and trying to keep us like cowering, and that's not how we are. That's not why our souls are here, to be cowering on a couch. I'm sorry, it's not. So anyway, back to dream time. One way to do that is with visualization before you go to bed. Ideally, maybe you're saying prayers for those that you love, for the planet as a whole, for yourself, and as you head into dream time, asking to revoke all lower vibrational thought forms and frequencies, shields on full, and maybe envisioning yourself in a golden sphere or a sphere of violet flame. It can be a pillar, it can be a pyramid, it can be a Merkaba, whatever's cool with you. It can be just washing light over yourself before you go into bed and asking to be shielded during dream time. Especially if you're experiencing very unsettling dreams, I feel that can be very helpful. And if you're waking up in the middle of the night after a nightmare, just start that process one more time to shield during your dream state.
Yeah, stating that you give no access or no consent to any inorganic darkness to access your field is also very powerful. This is a free will planet, therefore it's like that's law.
Right.
So speaking that into existence, also asking that only those beings that exist in the highest order of light may stand in my presence, or only those beings which exist in the highest order of light may stand in our presence, is also very helpful. I love to ask my higher self or highest self to embody. I find that anytime that ego wants to go for a ride, or I'm like out of whack, or whatever the case is, I'm like, okay, higher self, please embody, help me through this process, or guide me through this, or put the words there for me, because it really just helps get ego out of the way, and it helps us come from a heart-based space.
Definitely. And so if like dream time might have
Sorry.
if dream time might have been affected, or like some of that programming might have gotten in, so what can happen is you can wake up in the morning and just start doubting yourself, like off the bat. Like I've had mornings I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what am I even doing with my life? Like these deep things, they're just hitting me one after another, and that's when it's like, all right, I get to call in my team. I call in angels, spirit guides, ascended masters, ancestors, highest self. Please join me, please protect me, guide me. I'm open to receiving the highest and best information. I am open to my highest light embodying me in this now moment to help me to move through that weird feeling of fear and doubt that is not of our soul nature. Those are programmed experiences. They are not of our original divine blueprint.
Using the word is one of the most effective ways to shield up. to protect. Yeah, and to ask, so like, I think it's really interesting because I hear this all the time, like, how do I do that? Or like when I say, like, are you working with, like, the angelic realm? Or and I get that question all the time, like, I don't know, I like resonate with them, but I don't know how. And I always go back to, like, it's so simple, use the words, use your word. It could literally be as simple as, Archangel Michael, thank you for being present.
Right.
And that's it, because in order for that energy to intervene, it needs to be stated and asked for. And so when we ask for that to be present, then when we hold the light in that way, there's no way that darkness can penetrate. It like, we literally beam through it, right? That's the point. The point isn't that this inorganic darkness is always in our field and we're never going to get out of it. That's been the case for so long that's exactly why we decided to incarnate in this time. And I know sometimes it can sound so, like, because we're very much in this 3D physical realm, but those that get it, and that's who we're connecting with. It's like, we know we came here for a reason. You may identify with whatever term, starseed, light being, light worker, you name it.
Way short gatekeeper.
Yeah, crystal child, indigo. It's like all of these things.
All of it. What are labels? Anyway, we're all hybrids and everything. It's cool.
Yeah, we're made of the same things as stars, right? Stardust and the planet. So we're like this beautiful combination of the cosmos and this physical planet. And so we chose to be here in this moment because we knew that Gaia was going to be going through her ascension process, and we knew that these energetic dark forces had basically hijacked. And when we say it in that way, like, it does show up in humans, it does show up in people. And I want to differentiate from it being evil with the people that are around us. I wanted to, like, for you to understand that these are like mental patterns, right? So think of your phone. And let's say if I were to go and tell you, like, hey, do you have this app on your phone? And you don't, you know that it's in the cloud and you can go there and download it and then you can use it. If you don't download it, you cannot use it, right? And so that's the same concept. It's like these programs are there. Maybe we go into fields or into systems, into companies, into organizations that at the core don't have the intention of serving the highest good of all, and it's only serving self. And so then we fall into these programs, and usually they're of lower frequency. They tend to be of doubt, of confusion. It's like you go in cycles, even though you have solutions. Like, I hear all the time, and unfortunately in our educational system, like, people go in there with like ideas and they want to fix the system. They want to change it. There, we have teachers and people in like the administration part of it, but the system itself was not designed for it to be in the highest good, unfortunately. And a lot of our systems, that's the case because it's been developed through archaic and old programming and inorganic dark programs, where that's the point. It's almost like a harvest of light, because if you think of what happens to the creativity and the intentions of the people that are in those systems, they're like, oh, I'm done.
They get drained.
They do. Like
they get burnt out.
Yes.
Like nurses.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
like coming into the system because we care about people and want to make this world a better place, and then the system almost like breaks us down. It has that feeling. 'Cause that's how it was designed.
Yeah.
Yet now, if you're seeing a system affected in some way right now, it's going through a dismantling, which is necessary.
Yeah, I just want to check in. Self-trust, absolutely.
Self-trust is
Hello,
huge.
amen. Hello, yes. I don't know what that amen was to, but yes.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Yes, we love it.
Yeah, so it's such an important time for us on this planet to be here, to be our truest selves, to reveal, to be vulnerable, to open up our hearts, to purify our hearts. Because when we're coming from this space, like, again, ego is no longer coming from this space.
Right.
All of it.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a time to tune into the heart, and come from that space. Yeah.
Yeah, even if like an easy decree in the morning is to purify my heart. Purify my heart. That's it. Like, what a great, easy place to start at. That way, you're working on your own intentions. As long as each of us are working on our own intentions, it's a really beautiful space to be coming from. It helps us to see what others' intentions are. We can experience that very much from more of an observer role and less of a reactive role.
Yeah.
We're witnessing it, and then we can hold compassion for that.
You may notice that this year brought a lot of shifts in relationships. I mean, I've experienced it. Other people have experienced it. I've heard stories. Like, it is like a literally, and in like in all the best ways. But I think of tarot and like King of Swords, Queen of Swords energy, like out, clean cut, no hard feelings, just like a deep, deep knowing, and a recognition that okay, this relationship has come to its full blossoming, and I've learned what I've needed to learn. They've learned. And it's time to move on, and it's okay. It really is okay to do that in this time. It's so important to do that in this time, because we're all connected and we're energetically connected. We have cords, right? Anytime we connect with someone, even when we're on social media. This is why it's so important right now with these platforms to disentangle, because energetically if my focus is going there, there's energy going there, so there's a cord there, and then when we're in relationship with others, same thing, right? So we have these experiences that whatever I'm feeling towards these people or towards whoever I see online, I'm energetically connected to that being. So it's so important to, again, pure heart, because that intention is felt. Just like I can read energy through the screen and what I'm listening, other people can do the same too. We're developing those skills so that we can discern and we can be more aware of what's around us, and create boundaries that are healthy for us, and learn how to cut those cords. It's again, that sword energy. I've recently had a dream with swords, which is interesting. Yeah. And lemons, but lemons cut
pure
stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Dreamtime's been really interesting. Anyone else? I'm wondering. Yes, boundaries have come up a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Like energetic boundaries, in the sense that sometimes they don't even have to be spoken. It's just known.
It's just known. Yeah. And so even if we're looking at our social media platforms, like say we were viewing it the way we view a buffet, like you literally won't want to eat every single thing on there. And somehow when we're scrolling through, we're taking in everything that we see. Not everything is helpful. Not everything's digestible. Not everything is serving in this moment in time. Sometimes it's people projecting their own stuff. Sometimes it's programming. It's a little bit of both. And
Not from the heart.
We don't feel it. Like it doesn't feel like it's from the heart. And so if it throws you in a funk or anything like that, then cut it out. Take some time off from it. Take some time off from what isn't serving you. You know what feels good for you, and that's part of this process, tuning into self, and like Harsha said, like self-trust, trusting yourself through this, your higher self to guide you.
Source. Ultimate source.
Infinitely expanding creator source. So that is light energy. It's infinite. It's ever creative. It is not like the inorganic darkness that can only replicate. It can't create a brand new like painting. It can only make a photocopy. And so that's why you hear the same language, the same stories being told over and over again. It's like predictable. We're at the point now where we're like, okay, tell me how I'm supposed to feel again.
We hear it in the language, what's trending, right? So like when we think of trending, it's like someone came up with it, and then a lot of people are following it.
Even that language alone,
following,
subscribing,
liking.
Like, we're better, we can do better.
Yeah.
It's time for some new platforms. It's time for some new ways to connect.
It's time for unity consciousness, again, in that way of recognizing that we are this unified field, and that we are the universe in this physical vessel, coming to expand and experience love. And that reminds me of the video we watched the other day, because this planet offers us that teaching. It's like there are races that come here just to experience love, and that was like, oof, wow. Here we are, like essentially taking it for granted every day.
Being angry about
Being angry that we're here.
Right. Or like how many broken heart love songs exist. Like it's like a thing. It's a thing for us, but like it is so beautiful and powerful, and it's endless, and
it's at the core.
It is the everything. It's like when we say love and light,
it's literal.
No, we mean it. Because love is the superpower when we can embody that.
Yeah, I just want to go ahead. So Lee says, it's allowing me to see through the fake and giving me the power to pull away from a lot of things and people.
Yes.
Oh, 45, so much noise. Yeah. Hi, Cassie. Hi, hello. Felt that so much. Love and healing is the key. Yes. Cynthia, muy real. Así es.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. Love is the key. As cliche as that sounds, but we know when people like Bob Marley and John Lennon are really tuning into that energy, because they knew that music was universal and could touch hearts in that way. But it's our turn, right? It's our turn to touch our own hearts, to activate our own hearts, to live from that space. And that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, doesn't mean that there aren't layers, but it's so critical. Again, going back to that personal responsibility, your responsibility is to tune into your heart, purify the heart, go back to that unity consciousness, ask your higher self to embody, so that we're in alignment with the highest timeline trajectory, and we're no longer in this inorganic darkness BS.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
Just
I
some
mean,
Tuesday night stuff.
Yeah. If anyone's on there and you have any ways that you work with shielding or protecting, identifying, discerning when there's darkness around, what this ascension process has been like for you, that's always helpful too. I feel like, usually we find that common thread of like the physical symptoms, or sometimes the language could also be like so much that it's like, okay, what's the practical, right? Like I see a lot of like, expansion in this consciousness, and it's like ever shifting reality. And it's like, yes, I use that language too, yet I also like what can I do on my day to day? Like what can I add? What can I adjust? What can I improve? What can I take away? Sometimes it's that too. Like what do I get to make space for?
Right. And with like physical symptoms and such like that going through Ascension, like how can we take care of ourselves during that? Because we are healing and we are love and we are powerful on our own.
Yeah. White light tetrahedron. Cool. Yes.
Yep. Blending sacred geometry, visualization, all of it.
Yes.
Yep, whatever speaks to you.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent. Okay. Feeling pretty good. So I don't know with lives if we can add it to our, I don't know. This is
We're
new.
learning.
Clearly. We'll figure it out. We'll share this if we can. Would love to hear more feedback.
Yep.
Cynthia says, yo trato de fluir y evitar resistirme a los cambios sabiendo que vienen desde una fuente de amor incondicional. Okay, so I try to flow and avoid like resistance to the change, knowing that they come from a fountain of unconditional love that. So
That's
like a
beautiful.
surrendering of. So, rather than resisting the change, that's so true. Like, I love that, because with that's very much like when we talk about the shedding, right? When we talk about, oh, you may lose friends, and you're like, ah. So rather than resisting or like maybe like making it a lot worse than what it may be, it's like
sitting in it.
Yeah, like being in that flow. I love that. Yes. Thinking positive, absolutely.
Yep.
You could think positive or negative. So
It's a choice.
yeah. Oh, Carla says you can save it. Excellent. Thanks, Carla.
She's got us.
Yeah. Lee, I take a minute and rest in the car, breathe and allow the energy to enter my crown chakra and run through purifying. Yes.
Ooh.
I love it.
All of that.
I love sitting in my car. I'm like sitting in the parking lot for like 20 minutes. I'm just meditating.
Yeah, taking a moment. It's always okay to take a moment.
I love the visualizing coming from the crown, like breathing through. That's a lovely visualization.
Pulse light through yourself.
Es español, wow. It's so. Cynthia, I'd love to see her on here speaking in Spanish, letting her flow in that way, because it would be so lovely. I was just going to say, just because Spanish is like poetry. Thank you. It's that Paisa accent, huh? Yes, beautiful, right? Yeah. Thank you. Maybe we should do some videos in Spanish. It is a romance language.
Yeah, unless I'm speaking it.
No, it's pretty good.
I have a moment.
Don't let her fool you. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna save this and see how we can share it after.
Yeah.
And until next time, let us know how you're going through this ascension process, and any tips or things that have worked for you in terms of shielding and protecting.
Absolutely.
And really harvest your own light. If other people are out here attempting to harvest on our own light, I'm gonna protect my own light. I'm going to nourish it. I'm gonna cultivate it, and I'm gonna shine it where it's meant to be shown. Shine. It's better in Spanish.
I believe that.
Okay. All right. Love you.
Love you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Is this thing off?
It is not.
We're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Still love you though.
Yes, very much so.
Yep. Okay.